Canada with a steal in one.
Curling. Sport of Kings. Morning, Trainiacs. As I start watching the Olympics through all of my waking hours over the next couple of weeks, I have been thinking about the differences in triathlon between ITU Olympic track pro triathletes and Ironman pro triathletes. And over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 months, as I've started getting to know a lot of these pro triathletes, I've heard a lot of the differences between the two different tracks in prize money, approach, training, enjoyment, the business side of it, all that stuff. Let's discuss that today, shall we? Now, there are quite a number of differences between ITU sprint and Olympic distance racing and Ironman racing. Obviously, totally different sport. Now for starters, obviously, the distances are different. In ITU, WTS racing, you're racing sprints and Olympic distance races. In World Triathlon Corporation, the Ironman brand races, or the Ironman distance races, you're racing half Ironman, full Ironman, and occasionally ITU long course. And what this results in as athletes tend to move from short course when they're young and they're twitchy fast and they haven't yet peaked for that endurance age of like early to mid 30s. They start switching from a race that is speed and twitchy fast focused to more of a strength focused race. They have to start worrying about how strong their body is because it needs to hold up for hours and hours of pounding, and it's less of that absolute top end speed. The short course races are draft legal as well, whereas the long course, non-drafting. So what this results in is the short course races tend to be more focused on having a good swim so you can get out of the swim in the front pack and you don't have to use the bike to bridge up to the front pack, burning a lot of matches. And you hopefully come out in that front pack off the bike, and then it's essentially a run race. In the short course distance racing, if you have the fastest run, odds are good you're going to be close to winning. Whereas with long course racing, it's much more focused on the bike and the run and not necessarily the swim. Nutrition, really not at all a focus for short course athletes. Sarah True says that she basically might take one gel coming into the run and a little bit of electrolytes, but barely even thinks about it, to the point that when she started doing long course distance racing, she had to remind herself to actually eat. And with regards to funding, this is a really big difference. In ITU short course racing, you're on an Olympic track. You are going towards racing on the blue carpets and bringing home Olympic gold for your country. So this means that you're often getting government funding when you're a short course athlete, whereas with Ironman, you're essentially on your own. You are like a sole proprietor or a one-person corporation of your own little business. That, for income, has some benefits that we'll talk about later. Now, as far as race choices are concerned, the short course distance races, it's a series. You're limited to a series of races, and if you don't go to those races, you ain't racing ITU or WTS series races. You out, son. But with long course, you've got Ironman, you've got Challenge, you have multiple Ironman options every single week. So what this results in is you don't have the same athletes competing week after week after week against each other with the same tactics, knowing essentially what the outcome is going to be. In long course distance racing, you have different fields every single week, and apparently this leads to a little bit less camaraderie amongst the pros because your competitors are constantly changing. Now let's talk prize money. At the tippy top of the prize winnings in short course racing, the dollar figures are higher. However, with long course racing, the prize money for winning tends to be lower, but the prize money per athlete goes a lot further down the list. So there are more people that are cashing checks. By looking at the pro prize money earnings every single year, we see that it's essentially a wash, that there is no clear delineation between short course athletes or long course athletes making more than one or the other. But I believe that for the top athletes out there, and I'll say that if you are an elite ITU short course athlete odds are really good that when you step into long course racing, you're going to be one of the top long course racers around. Think Daniela Reef, think Javier Gomez, think Alistair Brownlee, think Sarah True. In short course distance racing, you're limited because of government arrangements, because of sponsorship rights, to who you can take on as a sponsor, the appearances that you can make, whereas with long course racing, you're on your own. You can do whatever you want. And I think that for those elite athletes that can garner sponsorship dollars, that because you have more options in long course racing with what you can and can't do, you're essentially your own business. And from what I've kind of gathered, that provides a lot more financial benefit when you start looking at the overall where athletes are getting their income at the pro levels. And essentially that's the gist of it, that with short course racing, you are not just racing for yourself, you're racing for your country, and it's more of a community because it's this small, little, isolated ecosystem of development, whereas with long course racing, you're your own brand, son. Take it or leave it, do what you want, have at it. Thank you for watching. If you aren't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button below, and if you don't want to miss any of the daily triathlon videos that we put out, hit the notification bell. If you are already subscribed, hit me up in the comments below with your favorite ITU turned long course athlete. Now, Olympics for 2 weeks. Later, Trainiacs.